The first exercise is to create a mass family to represent a classroom, and then this could be repeated for other activities that would be part of the school proposal. So what I do is I begin by creating a mass family. If I go to the application menu for Vasari and I say new and family, because Vasari deals only with mass forms, volumes and surfaces, I'm only seeing templates that relate to masses. So if I pick on the mass template and open, that's me ready to create a mass family. If I roll forward with my scroll in the middle of my mouse, I can see two reference planes. Where they cross represents 0, 0, if you like, for the insertion point for the mass family. So what I'm going to do is create my family so that the back left corner is fixed at that location where the geometry crosses. So I'm going to begin by just drawing a rectangle, and I just check on my options bar here that I'm drawing on level 1 and I'm not creating a surface. I click to place the 2 points. I don't really care about the size. And then I hit the escape key to get out of the command a couple of times. What I want to do now is I'm picking the align option, and I'm going to align so that the back corner is where I want it to be. So I pick the object that stays stationary, then I pick the line of the sketch. I see the padlock symbol. If I don't want to just move it, but I actually want to maintain the relationship, I click on the padlock to lock that relationship in. So I do the same on the other side and lock the relationship in, then escape to get out of the command. And I want to put a dimension that will let the user control the size of the classroom when it's in the project environment. So I go to align dimension. Where I can, I always dimension from a reference plane if that's available to me. So I'm going from reference plane to the edge of the sketch and put in a dimension, reference plane to the other edge of the sketch and put in a dimension, and that in effect is the depth and width of my classroom. Escape to get out. Now at the moment the user doesn't have the option to change those sizes, so I need to convert the dimensions to parameters. If I pick the dimension and I go up to the label box, I can say add parameter. I give it a name that makes sense, like class depth, and then I can choose, is it a type parameter or an instance parameter. If I'm thinking that in my school I may have several classrooms, but I want the user to be able to change the depth for each instance of the classroom, then it's an instance parameter that I want. So I'm going to say OK. I'm going to do the same for the width. Pick the dimension, go to the label, add parameter, class width, instance parameter, so it's individually editable for each instance of the classroom, and OK. I've got my sketch done now, and I want to convert this into a solid mass object. So if I pick on the line work, I go up to the option that says create form, and I choose solid form, and it does an extrusion. So what it does in that extrusion is it actually copies the sketch from the bottom to the top, but they're not currently tied in together. They're separate rectangular profiles or sketches. I'm going to pick on, I'll come back to that later and explain the significance of that, but if I click on the top surface, you see a temporary dimension that represents the height, and right beside that dimension is a symbol that will let me convert the temporary dimension into a permanent dimension, which I clicked on it to do. Then when I pick the height dimension, I can go up and give it a parameter that I'm going to call class height. and make it an instance parameter. So I want to flex the dimension, flex the parameters, just so I can check the behavior of my object. And it's always a good idea to do this when you've made a few simple changes, so you can identify whether the changes you make work or don't. Just looking at that, this is a very large classroom, right? 108 feet approximately, 101, 108. I'm going to go up here and just flex it so you can see the behavior. So if I go to the family types and I change that to say 100, and I'll change the bottom to 100 as well, and then I say apply. Let me try and move this out of the way so you can see it. What I want you to see is that, well, that's not really the behavior I want. I don't want the bottom sketch to be edited to a certain dimension but the top not to follow. You see what's happening if I just turn it around a little bit? So what I want to do is make sure that the bottom sketch and the top sketch are locked together, and there's an option for that in the on the menu itself on the ribbon. If I hover over the bottom and I hit the tab key, I get the whole element, I get the side surface. If I click one more time, I get the bottom surface. If I click on that, that's where my sketch was. I can go to under form element and I can say lock the profiles. If you keep an eye on the solid form that's there at the moment, this option is saying that I want them to be locked together so that if the bottom changes, the top will change as well. So let me just check it one more time. I'm going to change this to be an approximate size for a classroom would be 30 feet by 30 feet, or maybe 10 meters by 10 meters, but I'm going 30 feet, 30 feet, and say 12 feet or 4 meters high, something like that. So if I say apply, I want to be sure that that's the behavior that I'm getting in my model. The actual position of those dimensions doesn't matter because you don't see them in a project environment, so it doesn't really matter where they are in this here. Now I want to save it, so I'm going to say save, and I should be pointing to my folder where I've got my masses library. You can see I've got a bunch of them in here, and what I could do is give it a name that makes sense, and the format I've been using is to call it something like mass classroom, and that would save it, and then I can say OK, and I'm ready to continue to work.